Hey there, how's it going? Seth Williams here. I'm one of the co-founders of Stride CRM. In this video series, I'm going to show you all the basic steps it takes to start using Stride CRM and start making money. Now, there is a ton of stuff you can do with Stride. I mean, to really explain every possible thing, it would take a long time to do that. That's why the whole point of this video is not to show you everything, but just to show you the most basic functions. If you want to go through the land flipping life cycle and start making money from land, these are all the essential steps and functionality you'll need to know how to use. And it starts with importing your first list. Whether this is the first CRM you've ever used, or if you're migrating from another CRM, this is what you need to do. And I will say, depending on whether you're sending direct mail through Stride CRM, through the Mailer Studio, what I'm about to show you may not actually be your first step. If you're going to be sending mail, go and check out the video on how to use Stride Mailer Studio. In that video, I'll explain why that is actually your first step, and then you come to this video. But if you're not sending mail, or if you're sending mail through some other platform that is not Stride, then this is where you would start, by importing that list. So once you have your Stride dashboard open, you're going to go right over here to where it says Contacts. And this is essentially where you can find every contact that has ever been uploaded to your CRM. Whether there's 10 or 10 million of them, you can find them all here. But the first step, if you don't have anybody in your CRM yet, is to upload your first list. So depending on where you got your list from, I got this one from a county, and then I added some other information to enrich it. Wherever you get your list from, it's usually going to look something like this, where you have a lot of the different property and property owner info broken out into columns. Everything from their name to their mailing address to the property address to the number of acres, and on it goes. It's all great information, but we need to upload it here, and we need to actually map out the fields to make sure the right information goes to the right place in each contact in your CRM. So first off, if you wanted to do this, and I probably wouldn't recommend it in most cases because it's just terribly inefficient, but say for example, if you just had one person you wanted to add, maybe yourself, maybe your mom, whoever, go over here and just click Add Contact, and you can put in their first name, their last name, their email, their phone, and any other info you want to add after you add them. So for example, I could add myself here, and then we'll click Save down here. And once I'm in there, I can go down here and open up any one of these things. And if there's any relevant information, I can go line by line by line and add all this stuff. Again, this is the least efficient way possible to do this, but I'm just showing you. This is at its most rudimentary level how you could add a single contact. But we don't want to do that. We want to add a whole list. And to do that, we can go right here and click on Import. And then we click on Next here again. And then this whole list here, we're going to drag the CSV file right here. And it does have to be a CSV file. If this is an Excel file or a text file or anything else, it's got to be converted to a CSV file first. Luckily, that's how most platforms export this data in the first place, so it shouldn't be a problem whether you're importing it from Land Portal or migrating from Follow Up Boss or whatever other place you're coming from. Just remember, CSV file. And when we upload this, we're going to have it create and update contacts. And the reason we're doing this is because if for some reason somebody on this list that we're uploading is already in our CRM, it can identify those people based on their phone number or their email and not create a duplicate, but just update the information. So go ahead and click Next. And now this is where we have to start mapping out these fields. And sometimes as you scroll through here, you'll see that it kind of automatically identifies what certain fields are and starts mapping them out, which is kind of nice. You just want to make sure that actually is the correct thing to map out. Because for example, this particular list has the zip code of both the person's mailing address and the property address. So we want to make sure we're actually putting the correct zip code in there, just for example. And it really starts with just going through each one of these columns and making sure we understand what are all these things and making sure that the right thing gets mapped out the right way. So we're going to go one by one through this and find each one of these things and map it out correctly. So this first thing, the parcel number. So the field in Stride that we identify that with is this one, APN, assessor's parcel number. And then owner name. So we would say name for that. And then owner's mailing address. In this particular list, when it says owner's mailing address, it's not talking about the entire address. It's basically talking about their street address. So again, you got to kind of understand the source of what you're uploading so that it translates correctly when you're uploading it to Stride. So we're going to go ahead and grab this, put street address there, and then owner city. Go ahead and map that out as city. State is already all set. Zip code is all set. Total tax owed. So that particular one, we don't have a field in Stride by default. You can actually add a custom field if you want. Say if there's certain things you want to keep track of that aren't built into Stride by default. Got a separate video explaining how to do that. I'll link to that below if you want to check that out. You just go down here, make sure everything is mapped out the way you want. And as for the stuff that does not have a field in Stride, if you understand what those things are, and if you don't care about it, then just go ahead down here and click Don't Import Data in 28 Unmapped Columns, and then it's just going to basically ignore that data. Go ahead and click Next. Okay. Okay, so when you get to this next stage in the process, you'll have the option to add tags to the list that you're importing. That's this checkbox right here. And whenever I'm importing a list for whatever reason, I'm almost always adding a tag, if not a series of tags to that list. And I'll explain why. So let's say I'm importing this list because I'm about to start a cold calling campaign with Land Caller, and this list is in Orange County, Florida, and I'm importing it in July of 2026. There's a lot of information that we can utilize tags to help us identify this list and why we were importing it and what we were doing with it. So with all that information in mind, I could add a series of different tags to help associate more meaning with this list. So I could add cold calling because that's what I was planning to do. And I could add Land Caller because that's who I'm using to handle the cold calling. And you'll notice that if you're trying to put a tag in there that doesn't already exist, you can just create the new tag right then and there. So I'll add that one. We'll add Orange County. It's another new one. We'll put Florida in there. We'll put July 2026 in there. Now we can hover up here and see all the different tags associated to this list we're importing. And again, I'll show you more about why we're doing this in just a second, because we can actually search for people based on which tags are associated with them when they were imported. Now, another thing we could do is add these imported contacts to a workflow. So one of the benefits of having Stride is that, first of all, we've built a bunch of different pre-made workflows for you. They're all turned off by default, but you're welcome to turn them on and start using them whenever you want. We've got a separate video explaining a lot of that. But even if you don't use one of our pre-made workflows, you can build your own workflows and build as many as you want. Workflows are basically just automated actions that start by a trigger. So for example, one of the triggers could be, we're importing this list. That's the trigger. And the action that results from that trigger could be just about anything. You could say, hey, once these things are imported, I want you to put them all on this email autoresponder series, or I want you to put them on this text follow-up series, or I want you to add them to this smart list over here. Anything you can think of, whatever reason you would have for that, you can do that. So automated workflows, by the way, you can find all these if you go over here to automations. That's where those are stored, and that's where you can create more of them. There's a lot to be said about that whole subject, so I'll save that for a separate video. But just know you can add them to a workflow as you're importing your list if you want. I'm not going to do that here. I'm just importing them. And lastly, you can also create a smart list. Smart list is another super useful thing. It allows you to essentially segment out all the different contacts you have in your CRM. So you could have hundreds of different smart lists if you wanted to. And each smart list is basically narrowed down by whatever criteria you want. So you could have a smart list for every contact in your CRM who owns a property in the state of Florida. Or it could be everybody who has a property in a certain zip code. Or it could be everybody that you imported in July of 2026. You name it, you can segment it however you want, but that's what a smart list is it allows you to organize and segment all the different people in your CRM. So you can actually more intentionally do certain things and communicate with each one of those smart lists. And I'm actually going to make a smart list for this one. We'll call it Orange County, Florida, July 2026, that kind of thing. And then the last step right down here is to check this box that says, I confirm all contacts in this import have consented to hear from us. I've previously contacted them within the past year, and this list is not from a third party. So we'll check that box and then click Start Import. And it's going to start that process, and it's going to take a few seconds to make all that happen. And once they're all in there, I'll show you how we can start searching for these people based on the different tags we added and the smart list we created. By the way, that first smart list that we just made is right here. Orange County, Florida, 2026. Now, if we ever wanted to make another smart list, we could do that right here, and we could call it whatever we want. And whenever we create a new smart list, we're going to remove this filter here. And say if we wanted to have a smart list that only contained people with the word Smith in their name. I don't know, something like that. So we could say, hey, let's look for people with the last name Smith. And let's see if anybody falls. Okay, look at that. Looks like there's a single person here in our CRM. It's actually not even from the list I just imported, but there's a single person with that name. So we could go ahead and create a smart list of a single person. So it's kind of a dumb example, but you get the idea. You can do this however you want, and you can do it by much more than just the person's name. We could open this up and we can do it based on the tag, which again is a very useful reason why you should add tags when you're importing lists. Or we could do it by the state, whether it's the property state or the state where they live in. You name it, there's tons of different ways to do it. Just want to make you aware of this because smart lists are a very useful thing that a lot of users put to good use. Let's go ahead and get this out of here. And now we've got our whole list here that we imported. And if we open up any one of these things, we can see all the contacts information. And there's not a ton of information because we didn't import this with their skip traced phone numbers or emails or any of that stuff. But if we did, all that information would be here. And once we do have their email and phone number added, we can start calling them or emailing them right here from Stride. You can call them just by clicking on this phone icon up there, type it in, and literally use the mic and speaker from your computer to start talking to people. Or you can go down here and you can email them. If you have the email address, you can send them a text message, all here from Stride. Once you've got all that data in your Stride account, you can communicate with them just about any way you want. You can also see all the tags that we added right here. And if you want to add a new tag, just click the add tag and you can either type in a new one or use any of the pre-existing tags that we have in here for you. And one last thing I'll talk about. So you might be wondering, when exactly should you import people into your CRM? Should you do it immediately after you export it from your data service, like before you've scrubbed anything, just all the raw data, put all that in here? Or do you scrub it first and then import the list? Or do you import the list after you send a mail campaign or a text campaign? Or do you import it after they respond? Like, at what point do they actually belong in your CRM? And there's different philosophies on this, but I can tell you with Stride, there's not really a big reason not to import everybody. And when I say everybody, I mean, once you download your list from your data service and then you've scrubbed out all the junk, so the people that you absolutely know you do not want to buy property from, then you import the list. So after you get it from the data service, after you scrub it, but before you've sent any marketing to them. And the reason I say that is because if when you're importing people, if you're tagging people appropriately, if you're tagging them appropriately as you continue communicating with them, if you're properly utilizing smart lists to communicate with people in an organized way, then there's not really a huge reason not to just import everybody indiscriminately. Because if you want to search for anybody, you can search for them right here by name. You can also use these advanced filters to say who you do and don't want to see right here on your contacts dashboard. And again, Stride is not like other CRMs where they charge you extra for having a higher number of contacts in your CRM. You can have a billion contacts in here and it's not going to cost you 1 penny more. It doesn't kick you into a higher subscription category or anything like that. So when I look at this, I'm pretty much importing everything. And the reason I do that is because when these people start calling back or I start interacting with them, I can quickly type in their name and their data, their mailing address, their property information is already here. I don't have to manually type in as much because I've already imported everything. Granted, for many of these contacts that I'm importing, because I'm doing it so indiscriminately, I will literally never open up their stuff and look at their information because they're not going to call me back. I'm never going to interact with them. But that's fine. That's not even really how I track these deals in the first place. I do that over in this opportunities section, which we've got a separate video about. But this is where the deals actually come to fruition and start existing. And we start tracking, hey, the deal can move on to the next stage and it's time for due diligence and time for closing and listing and selling, all this stuff. So if anything, I'm usually spending a lot more time in this section where we create property cards and move them along the pipeline. So yeah, we got a separate video explaining how this works. Hopefully that's a good overview of contacts and importing your leads and how to think about that whole process. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video where we talk about how to handle incoming leads and keep track of properties and deals as they move along your opportunity pipeline. I'll see you there.